Hello. Happy Tuesday to anyone that's joining. I always start this the same way. I need to get more creative, but I don't really have like a big intro today. I don't have as much of like a specific topic. I mean, I do have a topic, but it's kind of just my thoughts on something because I'm always trying to think about topics that like fit nursing and fit healthcare and fit with the NNBA, but while still, choosing things that feel relevant and like an if I were, which I am, but if I were a nurse just listening to this, could I relate to it? So I had a really great conversation last week with Jeannie Wynn. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but it just got me thinking about like boundaries in healthcare and just my schedule back when I was a floor nurse, like what my weeks actually looked like, how I spent my time, how my time felt, how my time at work versus my time at home felt. And honestly, I mean, a lot of nurses have to be dealing with this right now because when I think about my schedule back then, I'm not just thinking about the hours I worked, right? Like I'm also thinking about training and how much like my job expected of me and how it just pretty much took over my life completely. Um, and I'm just kind of thinking about like the mental toll, the emotional labor, um, how much, like I said, the job took from me and expected. This was all jobs, even jobs I really liked. It was just a lot. So it just kind of led me to thinking about boundaries. Like I said, like we talk about boundaries in nursing all the time. We say they're important, we encourage them, but then when you try to actually set them, it doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. And then there's this disconnect between the conversation and then the reality. And you look like, if I'm not willing to put my whole life into this, then I'm unwilling to help, and I'm not a team player. And this is what you're supposed to do, and this is what you signed up for, and we need nurses. So it just kind of turns into a spiral. And I just wanted to talk about what everyone's boundaries look like at the bedside because in nursing, boundaries usually come with something like attached to them. So, like calling out or leaving on time or saying no to picking up that extra shift or wanting flexibility or not wanting to take too many patients or not wanting to float to a unit you've never been on before and have no training. You are protecting your license, you're protecting your emotional energy. No one says like you shouldn't do that. It's just very subtle, like tone changes, expectation shift. And I remember feeling like I could just feel it, even if no one said it. Maybe you don't get offered the good shifts or you get the most difficult patients or people aren't as nice to you when you're not offering things to them that could really benefit them. And over time, you kind of learn what's safe to ask for and what isn't. And I'm curious if anyone's ever felt that shift. I would love to hear about it in the chat. But I think a lot of nursing systems just depend on people consistently giving way more than they should. So when a nurse puts a boundary in place, it feels disruptive or inconvenient or rude. Sometimes it feels personal. And when you exist in that environment long enough, you kind of stop questioning the system and start adjusting yourself to fit in it and adapting and abandoning your needs. And then it feels easier in the moment, but like in the long term, it can really have some negative effects. And I hear about burnout way too much. This is obviously sort of what I'm talking about. Like when you adapt and abandon your needs and all that, obviously it might work for the moment. Eventually you're going to get burnt out, but really it just starts to mess with you. And this is the part that really will stick from job to job if you don't change it. And after a while, it's not just about boundaries at work, it becomes, internal. So you start kind of wondering, like, why does it feel so hard to say no? Why can't I just handle this? This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Every other nurse seems to be doing fine. And that kind of self doubt just doesn't show up when you leave the bedside or try something new. So, like at the NNBA, obviously, we exist to support nurses that are wanting to find career alternatives or create their own business. We think that's amazing. I love being a part of this. It's incredible. But that self-doubt and inability to set boundaries won't just go away when you leave the bedside if you don't learn to tackle it or manage it right away, and a lot of nurses carry that with them throughout their entire career. So I just think it's super important to kind of do a check-in sometimes and be honest with yourself. Are you being are you being put into a box that you're not comfortable being in just because it seems like it's what you're supposed to do as a nurse and that's what we're there for? But this whole topic came to me because it came up in the conversation last week that I had with Jeannie Wynn. She was talking about, she's very open about how nursing just didn't fit her lifestyle anymore. Like she thought 3 days on, 4 days off, that's like the ideal schedule. Nursing was um, her second degree. And she was like, yeah, that's going to be awesome to have more time off than I have on. But then she got pregnant and she was like, I cannot work 13 hours while I'm 30 weeks pregnant and my feet are throbbing and then I go home and I have to take care of my family and do it again. Like some people do it, but I didn't want to. And I thought, wow, that's so validating to hear. Like I didn't want to. I don't want to. Because I think so many nurses feel feeling like that. Means something's wrong with them, but really it might just be like a mismatch at this time in your life, and it doesn't mean you don't care or you couldn't do the work or you're not a good nurse. Just the structure of your life may not align with how you want it to feel right now. So um, I thought that was super powerful. So if you're a member, keep an eye out for the link. We're going to send that out this week. So you can watch the conversation. That's the first of our members only podcasts. So it's honestly so valuable. I think a lot of nurses will see themselves in it. I've really, really appreciated that conversation. And you should definitely check her out if you're not familiar with her. So, and that kind of just leads me, like I said, this is just kind of not a super structured conversation, just something I think is important, and some people need to feel seen in this, but this is why I think it is so important to be around different voices. Being in spaces like outside of hospital culture matters a lot. If you have different, aspirations as a nurse, when bedside nursing is the only lens you've ever looked through, it's hard to tell like what you're meant for or what's normal for you or what your options are. So being around different nurses who are building differently and thinking differently and doing differently and setting boundaries without apologizing for them, it will really, I believe, shift your perspective. Because then you get a chance to step outside of like the hospital system and no one's telling you what you should do. It just shows that there are other ways that you can, consider what's next in your career and your life. So honestly, this is why the NNBA exists. Not to tell nurses that they have to do something in particular. Do whatever works with your life and makes, aligns with you. Oh, I'll plug best water bottle ever. But yeah, we don't ever want to push one path over another, but the NNBA does exist to give nurses like the space and perspective and support and community to have these kinds of conversations without feeling judged. So if this feels familiar, you're not alone. And if you want to be part of conversations like this more often, join in on our events, be a part of the community, come to the conference. It's in July. It's in Scottsdale. It will be very renewing and encouraging and validating. I've went for the past 4 years. Only last year was I actually a part of the NNBA as like an employee. So, the link will be in the description. It's on the website. It's in the bio and on Instagram. But before I hop off, I know this is quick and maybe just even sounds like I'm babbling or ranting a little bit. Maybe I am, just because I think it is a familiar feeling for a lot of nurses. And I want to hear from nurses, like, what have you noticed? Let me rephrase. Have you noticed how different boundaries feel depending on the space you're in. Like, say, if you work in a clinic versus a med surg unit, or if you do medical sales, or if you're an entrepreneur, like, how are the boundaries different depending on the different space you're in? And has your relationship with your schedule changed over time? Has your relationship with your boundaries changed over time? Are you more likely to feel tested in your boundaries as an entrepreneur versus a staff nurse? Do you feel like, maybe as a staff nurse, you thought, I get in at 7, I get off at 7, and that's that. And as an entrepreneur, I'm working till 10 p.m. or vice versa. So drop it in the chat, have a conversation with us. You can always email me. I'm really curious, and I always want to offer perspectives that are non-traditional. I love to have guests on that have non-traditional career paths as a nurse, because there's so many ways you can go about it and so many different options. And I think that's the most special part of nursing. So thank you guys for listening to me kind of ramble on about this. Don't forget to take care of yourself and set boundaries. And I will talk to y'all very soon. Thanks.